It's interesting though, because like my personal career path is I do a lot of traveling. I'm like a freelance director. So, I was just in LA yesterday. I was called to be in New York 2 weeks from now. I'm going to be in Kansas City next week. So I'm constantly on the move. And a lot of the people within my network and within like a freelance creative network, they're also renting and, living in, maybe they have rent in 2 different places to sustain, the work in the East Coast and work in the West Coast. So I'm thinking about that, but like, I also want to own something. I want something to kind of come home to, something that is an asset, and something that I own. And that's something that I have been thinking about, like with my crazy, I'm single right now, and like, I don't have anything necessarily tying me down, and I'm all over the place. But like, how can I find that balance between also having ownership in something?
Yeah.
All
right, that's great. So,
and sorry, real quick, before you go into it, because I know you're going to go into it, I feel like maybe that's what a lot of kids like my generation and younger may be thinking about too, especially because remote work is so, integral now. People are traveling all over the world. People are living in Bali, working remote, right? Yeah. And that's cool. But then like, it's awesome. You're getting life experience. Totally. But how can you have something that is grounded, like owning a home while doing that? Okay. Right.
So, all right. So I love the word you said, which was grounded, because that's where I was going with my next question was, no matter where you travel in the world, do you have a place in mind, like a location where you want like home base to be? Mm-hmm. Or is that like up in the air for you?
Right now, it's hard to say, because the most ideal situation is I would have 2 places, like one here in the Chicago suburbs or in Chicago, and then another place in the West Coast. Okay. But right now it's kind of up in the air. Yeah.
Okay. So say you were going to buy a place around here. Mm-hmm. Would you be open to having roommates?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So that opens up a few more possibilities, mm-hmm. right? Because initially when I think if you would have said no to that, then my mind would have immediately gone to like a 2-unit, duplex mm-hmm. type of thing, where you could have your own place on one half and then the other half you could rent. And a lot of times that rent will, it should at least cover half, of your mortgage, but most of the time it would cover more, mm-hmm. So you'd be paying less a month. You'd also have a place where you could go to and be your own. Mm-hmm. It's also very easy to manage, mm-hmm. somewhere that's right next door to you. Mm-hmm. And if you're living there, it's technically not like an investment property. So your financing opens up that you can get, lower % down on your house.
I see. On
your mortgage. So, and that might still be the way to go.
Yeah. I mean, as you said that, I'm like, maybe that actually sounds like the way. Yeah.
It does. It makes a lot of sense, right?
Yeah.
Or, you could go in, so you could do that, period. Mm-hmm. Okay, if you're open to having roommates and you have enough connections around that you feel like enough people that, could room with mm-hmm. you, then we're kind of looking for somewhere that's, 3-4 bedrooms, still mm-hmm. keeping in, like a decent price range. You have an idea of where you and your friends would be comfortable living and, mm-hmm. Things like that. So I would say, well, maybe we try to get into, like maybe a little like an up and coming area mm-hmm. or an area that's like, it's not like super appealing to people, but the prices are still, reasonable and the taxes are reasonable. So like, I would think like somewhere like near east side of Aurora, mm-hmm. Where you could get like a pretty nice size home for, less price than you would get other places. You could have roommates, and so they, hopefully they would pay all of your mortgage, or they mm-hmm. would pay a good chunk of it, or maybe you just split it evenly, and everybody pay the same. But that way, when you're off and traveling, like you're good. Mm-hmm. Again, that if you end up like, I'm going to be in LA for the next 2 years, okay, well, you have that place taken care of, and you can throw somebody else into that, 3rd bedroom mm-hmm. and then not have to pay for it. Yeah. So we could talk like along those lines.
Yeah.
So like, what do you feel about those two things?
My mind goes in a million different directions because I know someone that I think he, bought, I guess like there's also a difference maybe between like having an investment property and then actually just like living in it as a home too.
Yeah.
So I guess that's just something that I need to figure out. I think like if I want to have that grounding like home base, or if I just want to invest in something that I say I own but I don't necessarily live in too. But I think, of those two options that you had said, like the one that probably makes the most sense like for me right now would be like the duplex one actually, where it's like I can just kind of go in. It sounds like it'd be a little bit less to manage, right? Instead of having to deal with like 4 or 5 roommates, I can only deal with another one. But that's kind of where my head goes.
Well, you could do it with like 2 roommates but it doesn't have to be, a huge house and have like 1 million people living there, keep it to like 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So that's this kind of stuff. Okay. So that might take us in a direction, at that point, like, okay, let's start looking at duplexes. Let's start talking about duplexes and how can we find those are difficult to find right now.
Really? Okay.
So, that would be, and there's a lot of investors out there looking. I mean, there's investors buying single family homes right now, left and right. So, to get that duplex, now we might be, first of all, that time period is going to be longer, so I want you to know, like, if we want to start going down that road, we should start now, because it might be a year, 18 months, 2 years before we find the right one. But if that's the direction, then that's what we do. We start looking at, possibly like going to sheriff sales and looking for like duplexes or foreclosures, things like that. Again, the investment side of it, because this is not my daughter's situation. It's different, right? So you guys are same age, but different situations. That's why, again, it's not one size fits all. So if that's the direction we're going down, then let's start going in that direction, and exploring it, looking at the finances, looking at spreadsheets. What are the real costs of the ownership, and is this going to be a good investment for you? And then also starting to talk about what we're going to do to save for the next home. So maybe again, let me just ask you. So this is, you're mobile, going all over the country, different things. Sounds like would be nice to have a home base. But you want to be flexible as well. So how does that look 5 years from now?
See, that's where I'm like, because like right now I obviously don't have a family. Like I'm single, but like one of my biggest dreams is to have a family. So it's like 5 years from now, I would, through God's timing, I'll find I'll have my significant other, and then we will probably be starting the conversation of like, all right, let's start a family, right? So like having that foresight, that's where I'd love to be, like close, like my late 20s or early 30s, like starting a family. So then it's like, okay, I'm single now, but I want to own something, but I don't want to own something to raise a family because I don't have a family yet. So it's like, how do you even navigate that, knowing that I'm mobile, all that stuff.
Okay, so we put the first part of the plan into process, and we start looking, and now we might not find that perfect thing for you, so maybe you do end up renting for the next 5 years. Fine, not a big deal, but we're actively looking. So then we're talking about finances. How much money do you have saved for a down payment? What's your income like? What can you afford to buy? You're gonna have to get a loan, so the bank's gonna want to see the financial situation that's solid, history of income, things like that. So we start talking about that stuff and digging in, and then we make a plan, and then so now we're gonna start identifying places that might work for this scenario that you're thinking about. And then we're also going to talk about 5 years from now, because again, we have to make plans based on what we think is going to happen, right? So if you think that, in 5 years you would like to have, that significant other and start a family, then let's plan for that. You know,
Yeah.
maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. Like that, like life happens, right? So, but we're trying to set up all scenarios so that you're ready for each one. You know, so we want to make sure you're ready to have an investment property or a duplex or something where it's more of an investment than like home.
Yeah.
But then we want to think about, okay, 5 years from now, we also want to have that home. So again, financially, it's like, okay, how much are we going to need at that point, you know, in order to do that?
Yeah.
So then we think and we start planning. Let's just say it's 20 grand, you know, okay, so you have 5 years, save 20 grand, you know, it's $4,000 a year. So again, you're like $350, $400 a month. We need to be putting that away for the future.
Yeah.
Right. And now you can put that stuff in, you can put $6,000, I think it's $7,000 a year now. You can put in a Roth IRA. So you're investing the money, but then you can also use that money to buy a home when you're ready, without paying a bunch of fees and penalties on it. So we start stocking $4,000 a year, or maybe you decide I want to do $6,000 a year, whatever, $500 a month. So we're putting that into, let's just say we're putting in a Roth IRA. Maybe you put in a savings account, you know, maybe you put in your checking account, whatever, but we're going to talk about that. All right. So then in 5 years, you know, we'll be ready to buy that next house.
Yeah.
You know, so if you envision yourself as a young family, just getting started, you know, I mean, that conversation can happen later. Where are you going to want to live? Because that stuff might totally change, right? But the plan doesn't change.
Right.
The things within the plan might.